Welcome inside the Eastern Conference Tuesday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. I'm Ross Levitan from Locked On Senators alongside Mike DiStefano from Locked On Leafs. It's Battle of Ontario. There's a little something for everybody today as the NHL Draft Lottery will go at 7 p.m. Eastern, but the four series, some were on last night, and then there's two games tonight, each one tied at 2 apiece. So we'll recap the Florida Panthers drawing even again with the Washington Capitals. The New York Rangers were blown out on the road in Pittsburgh. They're facing elimination. Can they hang on? All that and more coming up on today's edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. Your team every day.
Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen on this Tuesday, May 10th, and we have our first team advancing to the second round of the playoffs, Mikey, but they're out west, and we've got one team now in the East on the brink of elimination.
Yeah, congratulations, I guess, is in order for the Colorado Avalanche, making quick work of the Nashville Predators. A sweep in one day less than Daryl Sutter said it would take. He said it would be a waste of time having to play Colorado. It'd be a waste of 8 days. It was a waste of 7 for Nashville. So they booked their ticket a day earlier, or a day less, I suppose, than Daryl Sutter said it would be. But man, is that team a wagon.
They are ridiculous. Wow. 2 times they put up 7 goals. They win 5-3 in this decisive game. Now, I guess a Preds fan would look at you dead straight in the eye, Mikey. They would say it with a straight face. What if we had UC Saros, a Vezina caliber goaltender? We're going to get to the Norris Trophy nominees that were announced today. The awards are going to be nominated, not given, but the nominees will be announced over the next coming days. The Hart Trophy, the Norris, the Vezina. We've done those predictions, though, Mikey, throughout the season. You can go find all the Locked On NHL podcasts wherever you download yours. We're also available on YouTube. Very free, very available there. Ready to mingle, so hit subscribe. But we're going to get that later on the show. We had a surprise coach fired as well. But, Mikey, let's get to the games that were in action on Monday night. And where better to start than the team who has forced elimination game 5. The only game 5 elimination game. It's the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm calling it an upset so far. It's not over until you get that decisive 4th win. But to me, man, talk about falling flat on your predictions or my predictions of the New York Rangers moving on. This series, you can say it's been super close. You had a triple overtime game, but really Pittsburgh's been the better team.
Yeah, and isn't it incredible? Like, they've been doing it kind of on the back of Casey DeSmith and more so Louis Domingue, actually. Not even Casey. It's been Louis Domingue the entire time. He got hurt in the first game. Louis Domingue is outshining Igor Shesterkin, and I didn't have Igor getting yanked in back-to-back games on my bingo card. I don't know about you, but definitely not a recipe for success if you're the Rangers. And it's not necessarily like his fault. If you watch tonight's game, they just played piss poor in front of him. And that was something that was a big issue for that team early on in the year. They kind of clamped things down and played way better defensively towards the end of the season. They actually had the second best defensive metrics from the trade deadline all the way through the final 20 games of the regular season. They're second to only Boston for expected goals against. That has not been the case. They are the number 1 team in expected goals against here. They're allowing the most expected goals and frankly the most goals as well. They're just getting blown out here, and it's super unfortunate because we both kind of had the Rangers winning this series. We both had them potentially making runs through the Eastern Conference. Man, down 3-1 going into a game 5. It is going to be in New York, so they'll have home ice advantage. So hopefully that can kind of get the crowd behind them and keep this one going. But, I mean, just the way that line Pittsburgh is playing with Crosby, Rust, and Gensel, they've been just dynamite. I think they had like a 70 expected goals, like 70% expected goals tonight or through the whole series, really. They've been just dynamite so far.
Yeah, they've been ridiculous. Sidney Crosby with 3 points, a goal and 2 assists last night. He now has 200 career NHL points in the Stanley Cup playoffs to go along with his 3 Stanley Cups. Certainly an incredible talent. And tonight, Evgeny Malkin scored as well. I was trying to find the updated statistic here. Mikey, when I was watching earlier on this season, a Penguins game, on the broadcast, they showed that when Malkin and Crosby score in the same game, the Penguins are near unbeatable. So I don't have an updated stat, but from January 20th, which I mean, it's this year, these guys have been playing together for over 15 years, 99-3. And I'm assuming it only got better. Like when those two score, it's automatic.
Yeah, basically. And tonight was another one of those nights where they were just rolling. I think Jake Gensel too broke a record for like the first Pens player in history to score a goal in each of the first 4 games of the playoffs, I want to say. And I'm surprised that hadn't been done before. You think about like Jaromir Jagr and Naslund and obviously Mario Lemieux, Sidney Crosby, like all these guys hadn't scored a goal in the first 4 games of the playoffs. Well, Jake Gensel comes along and he kind of gets it done there. So they're getting it from everybody. And, you know, the stars, the studs are just kind of turning the clocks back a little bit. And they're getting some outstanding goaltending also from the unsung hero, Louis Domingue, the spicy pork and broccoli eater himself.
Yeah, no doubt. Change it up to concessions in a playoff game. That, my friend, is power. Talk about power. How about the Pittsburgh Penguins PR feed tonight? Like this is the distinguished company that they're getting here tonight. Sidney Crosby marks his 28th career point against the New York Rangers in the playoffs, tying Jean Beliveau for the most in NHL history. Then the stat you mentioned with Jake Gensel, the first player in franchise history to score a goal in 4 straight games. And then Evgeny Malkin with his goal tonight. It's his 66th career playoff goal, moving past Jaromir Jagr into sole possession of 3rd, behind only Mario Lemieux with 76 and Sidney Crosby with 71. Evgeny Malkin right there in the conversation at 66. Super incredible stuff. And
Cup contenders, Ross, if they get, I mean, are they changing your mind?
How can you go against them? And Mike Sullivan, just to finish off here, I'm literally just reading you Pittsburgh Penguins PR. Mike Sullivan, 44th career playoff win, one more than Dan Bilesman now for first in Penguins history. Wow. So this is just a team that's setting records. They're a team, we said going into the series, like, yeah, we were both on the Rangers. Goaltending and special teams, to me, was what it came down to. But it's come down to the stars being the stars. Like, Panarin's been decent to good. Like, he just hasn't been at the level that Sidney Crosby's at. These super duper stars have just elevated their game to a whole other level. If they get past my Eastern Conference finalist, the team coming out, the Stanley Cup finalist, I had them losing to Calgary in my bracket. Man, this Penguins team, like, as a Sens fan, you think I'm counting out the Penguins? They've kicked our ass like 4 times in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, this team, man. Crosby's just ageless, man. You just have to marvel at what he's been able to do.
Well, what about what Washington's been able to do? I mean, they're tied with the Panthers right now. I don't think a lot of people expected that. They lost tonight, though. The Panthers avoiding a bit of a scare. Obviously, they were down 2-1 late in the period. Brunette pulls the goalie with 3 minutes left, and they end up getting the game-tying goal, bring it to overtime, and Carter Verhaeghe ends up scoring an OT pretty early on, so able to avoid the scare. But for a while there, it kind of seemed like Washington was going to extend their lead 3-1, but that's a 2-2 series. But I'm still surprised that this is a 2-2 series. I kind of thought that, actually, I'm not surprised, because I thought of all the division winners that had potential upset bait here, I actually thought that it was going to be the Panthers, and you somewhat talked me out of it last week. I
know.
And I hate that you did, because I was right, because this is exactly what's happening. I said, like, if Ovi could just turn it back, if they could just get a save, who knows what this team could do. And I mean, hey, they're getting saves. Samsonov's been great so far in this series, and they're tied dead even at 2 apiece.
Well, I'm not going to be too hard on myself here, because the Washington Capitals mustered 16 shots on goal on Monday night. Not exactly like it was a barn burner going back and forth and last goal wins. This was a concerted effort in goal for Ilya Samsonov to even keep it to this overtime result. And they almost got the win too, man. Like Sam Reinhart, undercover pickup. I mean, they paid a lot to get him. Devin Levy looks like he's going to be a stud, albeit a 7th round pick in terms of value, what you're giving up. They also gave up a first, but Sam Reinhart coming up clutch. And that was just great puck movement. You could tell the momentum right after Washington took a go at the empty net from deep inside their own territory. Hits the side of the net so close yet so far. And it's almost like the classic statement is goalie makes a big save at one end, you come down and score at the other. But that's the same type of momentum shifter. Those guys who are tired, they get a couple extra seconds while the puck's retrieved and brought down. They set up a play, and Sam Reinhart, money on the spot there, right in the slot.
I mean, that's game, right? Like you send that puck down the ice. If that goes into the back of the net, that's game. Washington's up 3-1 and probably going to end up winning the game and taking a 3-1 series lead. Instead, you miss the net. It goes off the side. They get an icing, and they bring it down the other way, and they end up scoring on the next shift. And then it's 2-2 going into overtime, and you lose a couple minutes into OT. It's just crazy, how one little mistake or, game of inches, like they say in sports, game of inches, 6 inches to the right, perhaps that puck goes into the back of the net, and Washington's, celebrating with some bubbly tonight. But the one thing that I think kind of sticks out about this game that we got to talk about, the TJ Oshie hit on Sam Bennett. What are your thoughts on that? Is this a suspendable hit, you think?
No, not in the playoffs, and not for me. I think that it's one of those where the more you slow it down, the worse it looks. Yeah. So in real time, that's playoff hockey. And sure, does he finish a little bit high? I can see the argument for it, but I don't think that he's leading with his elbow or anything. I actually think it's pretty tucked in.
He's not leading with anything, but the initial contact ends up being with the head, right? Like shoulder to the head is the initial contact, and you see that head snap back, right? And I was watching it live, watching the game, and I saw it happen in real time, and I saw an official's arm go up, and I thought, oh, that's clearly a penalty.
Yeah.
First of all, it's east-west. We know that east-west, that's a penalty no matter what, and there was contact to the head. And the guy just spun like a helicopter, Sam Bennett. So I thought for sure, oh, that's a penalty. But the arm that went up wasn't actually the official. It was the linesman because he ended up going offside off that play. And that's what I saw. So then when they touched the puck and went down the other way, I was like, what's going on? And then they score the go-ahead goal off of that play. It was brutal. And I'm sitting here thinking, if you're Sam Bennett, you just got lit up and turned the puck over, and they went the other way and scored.
Yes.
If that would have stood as the game-winning goal, I mean, that would have just been hurtful if you're the Florida Panthers. But ultimately, I don't know, man. I could see him getting a game for this, honestly. East-west, contact to the head, whether or not there was intent. I mean, there was intent to make the hit. Whether there was intent to hit the head first, probably not. But you gotta, know where you are. You gotta control your body at times, and I think we could see a game here. I think you could.
Yeah, I think so too. But we've already set the standard that Kyle Clifford's hit from behind is one game.
Yeah, but
we've seen a lot of fines. I think that we could be seeing a fine.
But this is egregious, though. I mean, this is contact to the head, right?
Yeah.
Whereas that wasn't really even to the head. That was just a boarding call, which got a game exactly. So I think that this one, there's a little bit more egregiousness to it. I'll be honest with you. I think this is worse than the Kyle Clifford hit. I do.
Do you agree with the take from Ed Jovanovski on the Panthers broadcast? Of course, they're not pretending that they aren't homers. And right. I actually like my regional broadcast to be a bit of a homer. If this hits on Ovechkin, Bennett's kicked out of the game. If Bennett makes that hit on Ovechkin, it's a game misconduct.
Probably.
You think? I mean, Bennett's been on the other side of these types of hits before.
Probably, yeah. I think like if you see Ovechkin's down like that, first of all, a full-on brawl takes place. That's number one. And out of that brawl, you're picking guys off, right?
Yeah. Well, out of that brawl, the whistle goes and there's no goal.
Right. So like that's ultimately what I think would have happened. Like if you hit Ovi, contact to the head, you hit him east-west, and he helicopters. I mean, you're probably going to have guys hopping over the bench to attack Sam Bennett at that point, right? So yeah, I do think actually that probably would have been the case. Would have went totally different. I I don't know. I'm not.
Are you calling a game though? What's your official prediction?
If I had to make a bet here, Ross, I might be willing to roll the dice with the old guys. Might be willing to roll the dice. I think Washington they got something going right now, and they're getting saves, and that's huge for me. So I might be able to get behind these Capitals and get behind OV and Kuznetsov and company. And if you do feel like this team can get it done, you can place a wager right now over at Bet Online. Our partners at Bet Online continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, sport developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, the hockey playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts.
Welcome back to the Locked On NHL podcast. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me on Locked On Senators. I'm alongside Mike DiStefano, who's with Locked On Leafs. They've been doing a great job of keeping tabs on all things blue and white. You can subscribe to their show on YouTube. You can subscribe to all Locked On shows on YouTube. You can also download us free and available wherever you get your podcast. So I got the prediction out of you, Mikey. You transitioned so beautifully into the ad, but I was asking the prediction on the hit. Will it be suspended before we move on to tonight?
Thought you were teeing me up there, Rossi.
Oh, dude, you smacked it right off the tee anyway. So I just let it. I just watched it sail over the center field. One game?
One game, yeah.
I'm expecting a tweet that TJ Oshie has been fined the maximum amount under the CBA. That's what I'm thinking. Because he gets head. He gets head. But I'm watching it, and there's no chicken wing at all. It's shoulder. Sam Bennett, 5'10", Oshie, 6'3". I think that's the defense that he uses. Sure, you don't like that it's horizontal. I see what you're saying. He's coming across the blue line. But I'm going to say he gets a fine, no suspension. If he does get suspended, at least it's not an elimination game. That series is tied at 2. Hell, 6 out of 8 of the series. 6 out of 7 because the 8th is bye-bye. See you. Thanks for coming out, Nashville. So the Rangers are down 3-1. Every other series is tied at 2 going into Game 5, including 2 Eastern Conference series that will continue in Toronto, Ontario tomorrow. For one of them, we'll get to the other one after. The Carolina Hurricanes will host Game 5. Sorry, tonight. As the clock, as we're recording here, a little inside baseball, it is just after midnight, Monday night, Tuesday morning, because we wanted to record after the games so that this drops early in the morning, because especially in the first round of playoffs, Mikey, everything happens so quickly. You don't want to get these aged at all.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to this. Where do you want to start?
Leafs. Well, I mean, give me the Leafs. What's the vibe in Leafs Nation right now?
Well, it's not great. I'll tell you that. It's not great. Coming off of, getting beat 7-3 to Tampa, they just got blown out right in the first 5 minutes of the game. And they just didn't show up, honestly. So the vibes aren't good. I'll tell you that. But however, you go back to Toronto, you get the home crowd, you get last change. The biggest issue with Toronto right now is the superstars, shocker, not showing up, not providing the offense that we all thought they finally kind of cracked the code, right? And Marner even scored in Game 1, scored in Game 2. Matthews scored in the first game. He's got a couple of goals. Yet they went completely cold in Games 3 and 4 when they didn't have the line matchup. And Cirelli just completely just obliterated them. Victor Hedman, Chernak, like those guys legitimately are just dominating. Let me tell you a couple of statistics here from Natural Stat Trick just to kind of show you exactly how much they're being dominated. So Matthews and Marner, when they're head up against the Cirelli, Point, and Killorn line in these last 2 games in Tampa Bay, they were outshot 6-1, outchanced 9-0, and had an expected goals percentage of 4.8%. That's got to improve in Game 5 tonight in Toronto. Gotta. And in order for that to happen, Shelby Keefe's got to find a way to get his superstars out and get them away from Anthony Cirelli and Braden Point and Victor Hedman. You got to figure out a way to get those guys. You have last change, so you see them toss them out. All right, out goes the Tavares line or out goes the Kampf line. Even if that means you got to sit him for a shift or two, hey, make that happen, because that's, to me, it's tonight's key to the game is whatever you do, you got to get this Matthews and Marner line going and get them away from Victor Hedman and Anthony Cirelli.
Really? That to you is more important than getting number 91 going? Because I'm looking at the
absolutely.
score, and
Absolutely.
I mean, they've produced. You kind of expect that they'll bounce back. I know you say they're cold here for a couple of games. There's 6 points each in 4 games. They're both leading the team. I got to scroll below Andre Cachet to see where the captain's at in the scoring leaders.
I'm aware. Does he need to get going too? Absolutely. But look, at the end of the day, this is Matthews and Marner's team. I know that guy wears the C, but it's their team. They got to take this team to the promised land. They got to get going and get cooking. Willie and JT, like that, at this point, yes, you want more from them, but like they're the secondary scoring that you need to kind of put you over the top. But you need those superstars. Matthews, a guy who won a Rocket, back-to-back Rocket winner. I mean, the guy does nothing but score goals. And when you go and you have 0 scoring chances as an entire line through 2 games, you had 1 shot on goal in your last game, in your last 2 games, actually, 1 shot each game. That's not good enough, man. We can do whatever you want. Nylander scored twice in the last game, and Tavares assisted on one of those goals. And guess what? They still lost because Matthews and Marner aren't getting it going. Because not only are they not scoring themselves, but they're getting caved in on their own end. It's just, it's all around bad, dude. The shot differential or the shot attempts, 15-1 shot attempts last 2 games. So they're spending way too much time in their own end. Tavares and Nylander, they're not producing as much as you want, and more so Tavares, I guess, since Willie had scored 2 goals in game 4. But at the end of the day, man, like this team's gonna ride and die with Matthews and Marner. It is what it is.
Yeah. So are you hoping that game 5 tonight, Sheldon Keefe's able to get Marner and Matthews away from Hedman and Chernak? I mean, Hedman plays half the game anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Like that to me has to be the mid-game adjustment that you're making if you're Sheldon Keefe. The mid-series adjustment is you do whatever the hell you can to make sure that they're not playing against Hedman and Chernak or that Cirelli line. So, you have last change. You have the ability to do that. You see those guys go over the boards to take the face off. Guess what? Austin, sit. Like, we'll send somebody else for a shift or 2. You know what I mean? So I truly think that that's got to be the way to kind of get by this team and get a win tonight. And I think that this game 5 is so pivotal, man. It's so pivotal. It's must win. It's must win for Toronto.
Whoa.
Absolutely, it's must win. Dude, the last 2 years, Tampa Bay, since 2019, have not lost back-to-back games in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
They haven't.
Well, they're coming off a win, though, so you got that. The teams have alternated win-loss so far.
Right, but if they lose tonight, then you got to go and you got to win Game 6 and Game 7 to advance.
Yeah.
You got to win 2 in a row, and that's something that just Tampa doesn't do. They respond better than any other team in the NHL, right? Yeah. So that's why tonight, to me, is going to be must win, because I just don't see them winning 2 straight. It's kind of got to be the alternating games here. And it's now a 3-game series. Win the 2 that you got at home. If you can win in game 6 and win this one in 6 games, fantastic. Power to you. But to me, at the very least, game 5 is a must. An absolute must.
It's been a fantastically close series, but with lopsided games. Toronto has 16 goals and Tampa has 14 goals in this series. A series where each team has split the home and road games. Game 5 tonight in Toronto at Scotiabank Arena. Going to be absolutely electric to watch that one unfold. And in Carolina, a team that we had already pretty much pronounced on to the second round, not so quick. And you knew that the likes of Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, they weren't going to go down without a fight. They certainly fought, Mikey, not only physically, this has been a chippy series, of course, but they're right back in it. And they had to do it last game without Charlie McAvoy, who's a late scratch, testing positive from COVID. So that's a 5-day thing, right? He's not going to be available tonight either.
Yeah, I guess that would be the case. And
he had to be symptomatic because they're not testing asymptomatic players anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Lindholm's out as well still, no? Is he?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's back. So you're
Well,
missing your two big boys on the back end. I mean,
why do you think they got Josh Brown, right? For a fifth at the deadline. This is his time to shine.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, let's go. Josh Brown. Woo! Couldn't make it on the Sens, but woo!
Yeah, fire it up.
All the way to the Cup final.
That's a Sens abroad final pair, dude. He's paired with Mikey Riley. So a little yin and yang, a little offense, defense. Yeah, I'm looking at this decor, though, right now. And if I'm the Carolina Hurricanes, you talk about a must-win for Toronto.
Elevating.
This is a must-win for the Hurricanes. Grizzly, great defenseman. Don't get me wrong. Like him as a 4-5, a little more than as the number one guy. It's Grizzly and Carlo, Forbert and Clifton, Mike Riley and Josh Brown. That's what you're going into Game 5 in Carolina against a team who can beat you with any of their four lines.
Not the best. Not the best.
No, not the best at all. Well, Antti Ranta's back from injury, and he played well in his last appearance. Not his fault that they weren't able to get the wins in Boston.
Dude, I've come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter who the hell's in net for Carolina. They're going to be fine because they're so well structured, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, think back to all the goalies in the entire Rod Brind'Amour era. Can you tell me a goalie who struggled in Carolina?
No, I probably can't.
Literally, like James Reimer.
When did he get the job there? 2018 sounds right.
Yeah, he's been there for about 4 years.
So
like Peter Mrazek, it was great.
David Ayers, 800 save percentage.
David freaking Ayers went into the net. That is Zamboni driver go into the freaking net, and they got the victory, right? So like that just proves my point right there.
Even Curtis McElhinney had a 912 save percentage there in 33
playoffs
games.
Too. Had some playoff games as well, some playoff success.
Yeah,
Peter Mrazek.
Right.
I mean, they started that Kochnikov kid, that the goaltender there, the rookie. He played well in the couple of games that he was 2-1 in the game.
3-0 in regular season.
3-0 in the regular season, then went 2-1 in the playoffs. So it doesn't matter who the hell's in net for this club. That's what I've come to realize because they just win games.
Yeah, 1-1. Kochnikov went 1-1. Ranta 1-1 in this series as well. Because the game he went into, he didn't get the decision.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were already winning that game.
You still should have got the decision. I don't like that rule. If you finish the game, you should get the dub. You totally should get the dub. But anyways, regardless, he at least gets the hold. He gets the save.
He gets the save,
right?
Exactly.
He gets the save. He's
not to be confused with the other saves.
Right. The stave with a star on it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think that the Hurricanes are such a great team. But the goaltending was something that I thought maybe the Bruins would have the kind of advantage on, and maybe they could end up beating Carolina. They've found a way to get a couple of pucks past these guys in the last couple of games in Boston, but now the series shifting back to Carolina. It's advantage Canes for me tonight.
I think so too, but Jeremy Swayman hasn't lost a game in his NHL playoff career, so how about that? He's got, 925 save percentage is looking pretty good. Oh, I lied. He played one last year. I got too cocky there thinking this was his first playoff action, but I was wrong. This season, he's 2-0 with a 925 save percentage. Certainly a shade better than Linus Ullmark, who had an 860 in the first two games of this series, both in Carolina.
Yeah, and that's just a monster sample size right there for Jeremy Swayman. So beacon of consistency, this guy. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Well, man, he's looked good in his regular season NHL career. Yeah, he can't play games you don't play.
Yeah, no, he has. He's a good little goaltender. I think that he's going to have a pretty good career. It's not bad to go from Tuukka Rask into Jeremy Swayman. That's really a pretty good if you're Boston.
Man, Carolina's a tough place to win games, though. And they're going to have to do it at least once in this series if they hope to move on. But they certainly, I'm sure, gave their fans a little jolt of confidence after losing the first two games and in decisive fashion, going up to TD Garden and making it a series. So I'm sure Locked On Bruins is fired up. You can also follow Locked On Hurricanes. You can follow every Locked On NHL show wherever you get your podcasts, including Locked On Leafs. Mikey and David are going to be all over tonight's Game 5. Must win Game 5 for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Coming up on Locked On NHL, we have a quick discussion on the Norris nominees. It's going to be a contentious vote, I believe, between two of the three candidates, but the third one is causing Mikey fits. We'll tell you all three of those nominees just after a quick break. We also have a couple tankathon spins because, yes, for the teams who don't have a Stanley Cup to play for this summer,
You Senators.
we've got the draft lottery. Hopefully the last lottery. I said this last year, but man, it is a fun night. It's a fun 5 minutes. So we'll do a couple spins on the tankathon and who needs Shane Wright the most. I'll ask Mikey that. All coming up on Locked On NHL. All right, welcome back to the Locked On NHL podcast. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me on Locked On Senators, where I'll be watching with bated breath the draft lottery later tonight. Meanwhile, Mike DiStefano will be sitting at the edge of his seat watching his Toronto Maple Leafs in the Game 5 of the Stanley Cup playoffs against the back-to-back defending champs. Exciting times in the National Hockey League when it's the first round of the playoffs, but it's also a time to acknowledge greatness from the regular season, the Norris Trophy. Have we had a contentious race like this? It didn't seem like it was going to be one, Mikey. Cale Makar may as well have taken the award home at Christmas with him. But man, Roman Josi just came on strong. Roman Josi of the Nashville Predators, Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche, and Victor Hedman of the Tampa Bay Lightning are your nominees. Handicap it for me, Mikey. Who takes it home?
Oh, man. Like, these are all such great defensemen. But, like, isn't it insane how Victor Hedman, 20 goals, 85 points, and he's not even going to be, like, considered in the top 2?
Yeah.
Like, that's absolutely asinine to me. Just goes to show how significant the seasons were for Roman Josi and Cale Makar. But, like, to me, I think Roman Josi stole this award from Cale Makar in the final month and a half of the season. Ended up finishing the year with 96 points. 96 points in 80 games for Roman Josi. 10 more points than Cale Makar. He had a 1.2 goals per game, or points per game. This guy's just absolutely unbelievable. I think that he won it, man. I think Roman Josi is going to end up with the trophy next month.
He was on a 13-game point streak at one point this season, which was ended in Ottawa, just to say that. But in 13 games between March 2nd and March 27th.
Was that your Stanley Cup? Was that
No.
Stanley Cup in Ottawa?
No. We had a couple of them, though. We actually had some good games, so give me that. 28 points in 13 games, dude. That's ridiculous for a defenseman.
Yeah.
Now, I know scoring was up this year. And as a Senators appreciator, I was banging the drum for Erik Karlsson to win the award in 2016 when he had 82 points in 82 games. Now, reminder, Jamie Benn won the Art Ross that year with 87 points. Not 120 like you're seeing this year. But I think comparatively, and by the way, Drew Doughty won it that year. Doughty, because he had been nominated so many times. Lifetime achievement, yada, yada, yada. That being said, I just don't understand what the Norris voters do, because is it an offenseman award? Is it, if you're taking defense into account as much, Hedman should be neck and neck with these two guys. But the numbers just jump off the page for Josi and Makar. You just can't ignore them. They're so big.
They do. And like, the thing is, like Cale Makar, everyone talks about how elite he is offensively. This guy's also like so good defensively as well. You know what I mean? Like, he gets so much praise for it. It's almost in the same vein as Austin Matthews, where he's such an elite goal scorer that nobody actually talks much about how good of a defender he is. But Cale Makar is just amazing. But if you want to go and you want to take a look at the point share, which is almost point share is like what? WAR for hockey, right?
Sure.
Cale Makar leads the NHL in point share with 52 points, and that's what he's attributed to the Colorado Avalanche's point share on the year, which does surpass Roman Josi, who came in at third with 13.9. So if you want to use that as like a value perspective, Cale Makar comes through as, I guess, the more valuable player. But to me, like, just when you look at Roman Josi's season, man, like 93 points as a defenseman, how the hell do you not give that guy the trophy, considering we know he also is an all-star defender in his own zone as well?
Yeah,
and I think brought that team to the playoffs. I mean, him and UC Saros, but like he, if I'm not mistaken, like the next highest scorer on the Nashville Predators is like 20 or 30 points
I believe it. It's literally
Yeah.
like the Senators with Carlson. Like Carlson led them by so many points each and every night. He was the captain, the same. Duchesne had 86 points, so he led him by 10. And then it was Duchesne and Forsberg, who how many of their goals were assisted on Yossi's 73 assists.
Yeah.
And then after those two guys, the 40 goal scorers, you have to go another 20 points down to Mikael Granlund, who was fourth on the team in scoring 64 points. So it's truly incredible. Like I would almost make the argument that Yossi has a better shot, or should. He's not going to. And I know that Shesterkin and Matthews are 1-2, but I think Yossi should be nominated for the Hart Trophy. He's right in that conversation, because where the hell would they be without Roman Yossi? And contrarily, and yes, Makar is ridiculous. Watching his skating, it's so dumb when you're having to like almost knock another one of these guys down to make your point on the other, because they're all such great defensemen, and Makar's skating is so unique. But what would have happened if Yossi had the McKinnons, the Rantanens, the Landeskog? I know Landeskog was hurt for a bit of the year, but there's just so much talent around you in Colorado. I don't know if they're going to take that into account, but Makar he's right up there as one of the best players in the world, the most electric players in the world. So this is one of those years in the Norris where even if it's Hedman, and it won't be, I think it's pretty clear to say that this is not Hedman's year. It's going to be one of the two guys whose numbers just pop out. I think that you can't go wrong, really.
Agreed. We're in full agreement there.
Are we in agreement that Barry Trotz getting fired is a complete joke?
Dude, I saw that come across my screen today, and I thought that it was – I tried to check the calendar. So I'm like, didn't April Fool's pass? What are we doing here? And I'm shocked. He brought – like this team was garbage before he got there. They're like the worst defensive team in the league. Brought them to become the best defensive team in the league, the most stingiest defensive team in the league, brought them to back-to-back Eastern Conference finals in bubble years at that, and then one off season, right? 1 year where a team just doesn't make the playoffs after having the next to maybe the Ottawa Senators, the worst bout of COVID we had this year. They had a 13-game road start
the season.
13 games on the road to start the season.
Yeah, the rink wasn't even ready.
They barely recovered after that. And Anders Lee, their captain, was hurt for a bunch of the year as well. And they had other injuries that they were suffering. This team honestly had so much go against them this season. I was flabbergasted that they decided to gas Barry Trotz, because it's just 1 year. I mean, back-to-back conference finals. I mean, Maple Leafs haven't seen that since 2002. And this guy's going out here back-to-back, and they're like,
Like, what's Lou's plan? Lou Lamoriello he thinks he's a genius.
Bringing in Babcock? No, I'm kidding. I hope not. That would be brutal. Could you imagine?
I mean,
if
there's a GM that's going to hire Babcock, it's Lou Lamoriello.
Oh boy, I don't know. Yeah,
that's what I'm cheering. I'm officially cheering for that to happen.
So am I. Just because, screw the Islanders.
Well, to me, this is more on Lou than anything. He's talking today about having to get an offensive defenseman to help this team. Devin Taves, who he traded away for two lottery tickets, has 65 points.
Yeah, that was so stupid. I mean, they had Noah Dobson. Noah Dobson's a nice little defenseman.
He's sick. He would look great paired with Devin Taves. Makar looks great with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Develop this guy. You know what I mean?
Instead, he's getting an I love Zdeno Chara. Probably my favorite player in NHL history. Got to grow up watching him.
I wonder.
He's 46 years old. He can't be. But he can't be playing with Noah Dobson all season. I'm looking, but if I'm Barry Trotz, I'm like, I know there's 2 years ago they played last season without Taves, but come on. And Mayfield took a step. He was hurt for a lot of this year. And even Pollock and Pellick, that big shutdown pair, they were hurt. But to me, this is so much more on management than it is on coaching.
How much of it do you think is Lou Lamoriello seeing where the game is going, seeing all the goals that were scored this season, and figures, I need to get an offensively minded coach in here? Because if he was it's almost in a way that he's adapting, which is weird to say because it's Lou Lamoriello. But like, if he was hoping to get another coach that could come in and play a two-way game, the one that you traditionally see out of Lou Lamoriello teams, whether it was with the Devils back in the day, or with, Mike Babcock, what he wanted to do and what he wanted to bring to the Leafs, or what Barry Trotz has been able to bring to the Islanders, it's all defensive minded first.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is him trying to change with the times, and he's going to try and go out and get an offensive minded coach. I don't know who that is at this moment in time, but I feel like maybe that's the reason why they decided to do that, just because they feel like that's what will allow them to succeed. And I mean, look at Matt Barzal had the worst year of his career this season. I don't know if that had anything to do with it either, but
I saw an Islanders reporter say that if he was picking between Trotz or Barzal, that he'd be looking to trade Barzal.
Really interesting. That seems like a stupid decision, but anyways,
I mean, look, Washington hasn't won a series since Barry Trotz left, and just to bring up that point quickly. I know we got to move on from this, but I was just going to say, you say he's a defensive-minded coach. His teams in Washington, the year they won the Cup, they were in his tenure there. So I'm looking at the seasons from 2014 to 2018, all single seasons. Twice Barry Trotz had a top 15 offense in the league over that whole span.
Well, I mean, he had the players to do it. Didn't have the players to do it in New York, right? You got Ovechkin.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So he adjusted. He realized he had to be a defensively minded coach. And hell, even one of his last years in Washington, they only allowed 177 goals. That's the fewest that any team had allowed over that 4-year span.
Yeah.
He's a sick coach. He's going to be able to pick wherever he wants to go. I know that if Steve Yzerman's going to be calling, I think the Jets are going to push super hard. He's a Manitoba guy. He played for the Bisons in college hockey, and they need a big-time shakeup. And you heard like Paul Stastny say that there's no accountability. Barry Trotz oozes accountability. So I don't know if he's going to have his pick. He was making $4 million coaching on the island. And there's no salary cap for coaches. This guy he's going to have wherever he wants.
If he wants. Apparently he's going to take a week to decide. There were some rumors that he's potentially thinking about a management situation. Maybe he wants to get into management, but the Jets are kind of the team that I circled as well. The Red Wings, another one. Vegas, perhaps, after a troubling season in Vegas. They're quick to pull the trigger sometimes, so maybe that could be a spot. But we'll see what ends up happening. But those three are probably the front runners, I would say, at this point for Barry Trotz.
Well, it's just funny that it's like, oh, he's going to wait a week. Well, in a week, there's going to be 8 more potential destinations. And he's the type of coach you'd fire your own coach to get him.
Nashville?
The reunion? Dave Boyle's been there since day one.
That would make a lot of sense, man. That makes so much sense. You look at that team. Imagine Barry Trotz behind the bench with that team.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see if they want to rekindle that because, I mean, on paper it looks great, but there's emotions at play. There's maybe good emotions. Who knows? But it's definitely something to watch for. The best free agent, I'll say, this summer right now is probably Barry Trotz. I mean, there's guys who are going to re-sign, like Evgeny Malkin. I'm not counting in this, but
Kadri, Gaudreau.
Yeah, Gaudreau's up there, and there's some RFAs. That was a bit of a hot take statement here 40 minutes into the show, but I'm just saying he has a similar impact of these guys who change the dynamic of a team.
Yeah. You could. I mean, it's exactly what he did with the Islanders. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see where the Islanders land in the draft simulator.
There you go. So head over to tankathon.com/NHL. You see it right now? No, we'll get this going. Boom. There it is. So, you got it? There you go. So, what should we do? So, first we'll handicap it. I've been doing this Locked On Senators. We do it at the end of every show just for a laugh. But if you're just listening to this, the odds are 18.5% for the Montreal Canadiens to draft first overall. The Arizona Coyotes are in second with a 13.5% chance. Don't you love on Tankathon how it's red if you win a lot of games and it's green if you lose a lot of games? Hilarious. Seattle is in third with an 11.5% chance. So those are the heavy hitters, all double-digit percent chance of winning the lottery. From there, it goes down in increments of 1% for the next few. It goes Philadelphia, New Jersey, Chicago, although if they don't win, it will be Columbus's pick. It's a top 2 protected. Then Ottawa's at 7, Detroit at 8, Buffalo at 9, a little run of Atlantic Division teams there. Anaheim in 10, and then all the long shots, 3% or less. San Jose, Columbus, New York Islanders, Winnipeg, Vancouver, and then Vegas's pick is Buffalo's unless it wins. Actually, if it's top 10, it's protected. Okay, and what's interesting this year, just a note on the lottery, something completely different. You can only move up 10 spots, Mikey. So even if Winnipeg wins the lottery as 14, they're going to be the 4th team to pick. So they cannot draft first overall. Only Anaheim and above can draft.
Doing two this year instead of 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you like that?
I don't really care, to be honest with you. I don't think I have an opinion on if they do 2 or 3 draft slots. I guess I like it a little better, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, 3 got to be a lot, especially when it seemed like the same teams moving up all the time. New Jersey and the Rangers and Dallas.
Jersey and Carolina got lucky a couple of times.
Yeah. Crazy. All right, here we go. Let's simulate the lottery here once. Detroit up 7 spots.
Ooh, okay.
They've fallen a lot in recent years. I wouldn't be upset if they got the crown jewel here. And man, Shane Wright would certainly change the mood in Detroit. I feel like they need that one more star. They've got a few young kids there that are unbelievable, but obviously, who wouldn't say no to first overall? Last one here. What do we got? San Jose up 9 spots to 2nd overall. Montreal staying at 1. Now, I'm of the mind, I'm full on conspiracy theorist if Montreal wins with the draft in Montreal.
That'd be perfect, though. Honestly, I could see the conspiracy theory there.
Yeah,
I hope it happens. I actually do. Like, I know I'm supposed to hate everything about that team, that organization. But I think it'd be pretty cool to see Montreal win the pick and then get to draft Shane Wright with the number 1 overall slot in the draft in Montreal next month. I think it'd be pretty cool, or in July, rather.
I think for you and I, it would be fun to watch them draft 3rd again because I feel like they've taken a couple swings and misses at 3. I like when Sens draft right after Montreal, so I'm hopeful, but doubt it'll happen. Honestly, from a content perspective, and tell me if I'm crazy on this, I want Ottawa to. Obviously, I want them to win the lottery. I want them to pick 2nd instead of 1st. Is that a hot take?
And who do you want to pick first?
Don't care. I want to have 50 shows to dissect it, right? Because if they pick 1st, your hands are tied. You take Shane Wright's the best player available.
Okay, from a content perspective.
That's what we do, guy.
At Locked On Sens. Gotcha.
Right?
Logan Cooley.
I would love me some Logan Cooley. This David Jiricek kid who was hurt a bunch of the year, he looks like he's the real deal. Right shot defenseman would be awesome. But you got to see Shane Wright up close and personal at the Top Prospects game. Before we go, give me your scouting report. What kind of player is whoever wins the lottery? What can their fans expect in Shane Wright?
Yeah, he's a good player. Like he's a really smart player, cerebral, two-way type of guy. My boys dominated him and kind of shut him down. He scored early in the game. He did score.
We shut him down. He did score.
And he got shut down after that. All right. After that, my boy Loons went out there. Tristan Luna, who could be a first rounder this year. He could end up. There was somebody. Who else do we have? Owen Pickering too was on our squad. That was the tandem that they had out there. Denton Matejchuk, another first rounder who could go top 10 as well. We had some good defensemen on our squad for the CHL Top Prospects game. But ultimately, the comp that gets thrown out there a lot of the time is Patrice Bergeron. But I almost see more of like a John Tavares coming out of junior type of player. I think that they have very similar qualities as well. So that would be the type of player that I think you're getting in a Shane Wright, somebody who, exceptional status is a finicky thing in today's world. He was exceptional status, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Is he in the McDavid stratosphere? No, he's not. No. Absolutely not. Is he?
I compare him to Nico Hischier. I think that's a fair bar.
I would probably put him like a slight notch above the Nico Hischiers of the world. I would think like probably between a Tavares and a Hischier, whoever you want to give in terms of like prospect grading. Sure. Probably between those two is I guess, where I would go if I'm calling his ceiling, I guess, as a prospect.
And we'll have plenty of time. The NHL draft is July 7th in Montreal, but what would you say the odds are that Shane Wright doesn't go first overall?
Extremely low.
But not zero.
Not zero. It's not zero at all.
I think Slafkovsky, the Olympics that he had on that national stage, albeit with no NHLers, I think that turned a lot of attention onto a big power forward winger with a little bit of Mikko Rantanen in his game.
He's got a bit of that, but again, Taylor versus Tyler, what are you doing? Are you going to go at the center? Are you going to go at the winger? Yeah. Most of the time, you take the guy who plays down the middle, right? So I think Shane Wright most likely it becomes the number one pick. Logan Cooley, who we brought up, he's also a name that's kind of thrown himself into that top 3 consideration. During the draft process, could he push a little bit more, perhaps? Maybe. But ultimately, it's definitely more likely if you're placing a wager at BetOnline, I would say a smart one would be to place it on Shane Wright going number 1 overall.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably like minus 400. That's probably a fair odd to put on it. Minus 450.
Probably. Yeah. It's a strong favorite for sure.
Yeah. Unless the Sens are drafting first, then they'll probably take whoever's ranked 15th.
Wow. Who's just like a big
Cutter Gauthier. Not a can't shoot. He had 19 goals in 22 games. I don't want to what if Cutter Gauthier's parents are listening to this, right?
So he's like Freddie Gauthier.
He's the kind of guy where all like the analytics scouts, all the internet scouts would just laugh and laugh and laugh. Committed to Boston College. He scored at every level, but I think he's the kind of guy where because he's physically more mature, that scouts are kind of salivating over the physical skills, maybe more so than the puck handling or processing skills.
Well, there's a certain fella who I hear was big on the Tyler Boucher deal who is no longer with that organization.
Ooh.
I don't know how much they'll be salivating over a big player like that if you're Ottawa, but you could talk about that more on Locked On Sens.
And that's what we do. You can find our immediate reaction to Pierre Maguire being let go from the Ottawa Senators. Why did it happen? What the hell's next? All that on Locked On Senators. You can also follow Locked On Leafs wherever you download your podcasts. If you're listening for the first time, we appreciate you making Locked On NHL your first listen of the day. The beauty of the network is we have different hosts, all local experts on the biggest stories. So stay tuned for more on Locked On NHL throughout the week. Mikey and I will be back next Tuesday talking second round by then, Mikey. So it's going to be a ton of fun. We're either going to be, I will either be dancing on the grave of the Maple Leafs or I will be eating my words. 18 years in the making, but lots can happen on any given night in the Stanley Cup playoffs. For today, we say goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. For Mike DiStefano, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On NHL podcast, your team every day.